Okay, so there's been a few changes for the last code that I made with the custom loadouts. I ran into an issue where I realized that how we did the custom loadouts as far as saving them inside of the loadout scriptable object, which was cool. The issue that I ran into was the fact that as you remember, we had gun scriptable objects. We sold all of the stuff. Cool, you tell the loadout which guns, are in there through the code. If I go to the where's the loadout script, you tell it which gun that you have. It'll go fetch it in the renderer, yada yada, this, that, and the third. There's been a few changes because I realized that with the gun being a scriptable object, even though you have, multiple, I plan on using one, scriptable object per gun, melee weapon, all of that stuff. That's cool. But the issue you run into is when you go to set camos and set attachments, it changes it on that scriptable object. But that means that in every class that you have that gun in, it's going to be the same. So if you change the say you're using gun one in multiple classes, if you go in there and change the the sight to a holographic rather than an ACOG, it changes it in all of the classes because um, it's all on one scriptable object. So to fix that, what I did was I moved the camos and the attachments over to the loadout class. So here I have a string called primary attachments. Here another one for secondary attachments, which is just a little array, which holds. Essentially, I'm probably just gonna have them hold three, but you'll see what I did with it in a minute. And then I have the camos in here. So what that in turn does, let me go to the the loadout manager didn't really have to be changed at all, to be honest. This one is still the same. I believe I left this one the same. Yeah, other than the set camo, it goes to the selected loadout. The loadout script, it sets the whatever gun you have selected, it sets its camo to the integer that's in the array of all of the camos that that gun may have. Like if you come in here, not in here, where is it? It's in the other code, but I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, it sets the this one will set the camo integer, right? So that's that. And what that in turn does, if I come in here and go to where is my weapon handler? Wait, it was in here. My weapon handler, right? This weapon handler handles all of the rendering. So what it does, it goes gets the gun info, which is the gun which is the gun scriptable object that we were coding last time. But instead of using this for the camos and the attachments, we're using it just for the sole purpose of having the name of the gun and its stats. So um, like bullet velocity and all of that good stuff, fire rate, yada this, that, and the other. We still got the same code to go get the stuff from the loadout manager and assign the array and all of that good stuff. Still got all of the stuff that finds the weapons and things of the such, and sets. But here, where we set the load the primary, this still gets the guns the same way and renders them. But here we have instead of using how we had it earlier, where it would loop through, it still loops through the array of attachments that the gun holds, right? Well, right here, this is the string that I made earlier, right? So it loops through this string, which is your loadout. The primary attachments, which the primary attachments array only holds as many objects as um, your primary has. So when I say that, where's my thing? Should be in here, I believe. No, where did I put it? Where did I put it? I forgot where I put it. Mm, where did I put that guy? That's why I select. should be called set attachments. I lost it, man. I lost it. Oh, I know where it is. It's in the gun script. Sorry. So this is the, well, not the gun script. This is a gun scriptable object, right? So in the, instead of doing all of that, I mean, I still have the change attachment spot, which changes this stuff. But I have set new attachments, which what this will do is, when you click an attachment, right? Basically, well, I forgot to put the, did I put it in here? Yeah, set new attachments. Okay, so basically when you change an attachment, it'll change it right here, and then which this is basically like for the render, but it'll change it right here, and then it'll set the new attachments, which will just go in the which will go inside of that loadout that you have. And if you know you're using a primary gun, it'll set the array to a new string, which just uses the sights, the underbarrel magazine, and the barrel. That's set on here. So if you change just the sights, it'll set it to whatever you have set right here, which is why this happens. So say you change the sight to an ACOG, or you change the grip, the underbarrel to a foregrip, it's still gonna, the string's still gonna be the same. It's just gonna change depending on which one you change. So it'll create a new string, but it'll always be the same depending on which one you change. You kind of get what I'm saying. Hopefully you understand what I'm saying. Basically, the scriptable object, this is just gonna update these basically your primary and your secondary attachments, because of course melees don't have attachments unless I decided to put a laser on a sword. But this one does the same thing for secondary, and then set camos just have the camo and stuff, but it's directly from here now. But in here, when you set the I believe I put a set camo somewhere. Here it is. And the set camo, it just goes in there, changes that integer based off of which camo you're trying to change, which is in the loadout. So it changes that integer. So in the weapon handler, we run through all of the primary attachments that we have in the in our loadout in this string. So they'll go in like 1, 2, 3, 4 order, but just in case they end up out of order, I have it just looping through it rather than by index. So it'll go through all of the strings that you have in here, which, as I said before, is populated through changing it here, setting that new string so that the sights, underbarrel, magazines, and barrel, whichever one you're using out of here will be in there. So it may be you're using an ACOG, no grip, with an extended mag and a suppressor. That's what's going to be in your way. It's going to say ACOG, 0 is going to be ACOG, then 1's going to be 9, 2 is going to be extended, and then 2's 1 is going to be 4. The 4 is going to be suppressor. Sorry. So that's how your string would be set up. So we're looping through all of those strings that are in there, and if the primary gun that we're using, which is our weapon script, which is basically just our game object that holds all of our guns, holds all of our guns and all of our attachments on the gun. So with this right here, it'll loop through all of the attachments that we have set in our loadout for whatever primary gun we're using, whatever loadout we're using. So basically the primary gun and the primary attachments. It'll go through that and say, hey, then it'll also go through the sights that we have on the gun itself, and then it'll say, hey, if one of those attachments that's inside of there is equal to the sights that we have. So basically saying, if the attachments that we have in our class, if one of those is equal to the one of the game, has the same name as one of the game objects that's on our gun that we're using, then set it active. If not, set it to false, which is essentially the same thing we were doing in the last one, but a step back, because I took out one of the conditions for getting the gun info. Now the gun info is there so that here we can set those selected camos for that gun. So right here it says, hey, if the gun info dot gun name is equal to the primary gun. So basically, we're just gonna go get the scriptable object for that gun. We just say the primary gun dot camo is equal to um, my gun dot all camos, which is basically the scriptable object for each gun is always gonna have the same amount of camos. So that way you could set camos for specific guns and other camos for other guns. So basically saying, hey, if found that gun info for this gun, and then whatever camo he has equipped, then it'll get the how do I want to put this? It'll get the scriptable object, and then the gun that we're currently, the primary gun that we're using, the camo for that is going to be set to the scriptable objects array of all of the camos that we have, but the index we're passing is the one from the loadout. So that way, between loadouts, we'll still have the same camos. Well, we won't have the same camos, shall I say? So that's the thing that I changed there to make sure that you don't run into having the same gun and attachments and camos per loadout, and that's repeated in the secondary, and then the loadout simply just gets the camo. Well, the melee just gets the camo. So that's how that's set up to so that doesn't have any errors. It was a slight change. Honestly, all we ended up doing was moving the attachments over to the attachment presets over here, rather than leaving it on the gun, and the as well as the camo that's in there. So it wasn't that much of a change. Took me about maybe 30 minutes to an hour. I'm sorry, there's a little backtracking if you watch my last tutorial and you kind of followed along with what I was doing. Sorry, but there's a lot of the time coding does come with backtrack because it doesn't always work. So now I'm setting up a menu right now to make sure that we're getting everything selected. I already tested this part, so I know this one works. So this basically, well, before I go too far ahead, I put all of the managers on the canvas because the menu is going to persist through the scenes, so it's never going to be destroyed, so you'll always be able to bring up the menu. So I wanted to make sure all of the managers were here. So I have a loadout tester here, which simply just gets the let me go back, let me turn all of these off because I don't need any of these anymore, not right now at least. So the menu manager, it's just getting the text right now and populating it with selected loadout : and then showing the selected loadout that you click on, and that's just gonna go into the in here and make sure that we're actually able to get the loadout that we're trying to get through the code and how I set everything up. So where do I go? In canvas, right? Well, not canvas. Each of these buttons has the loadout manager, the select loadout function, which is here, is what we set up to select which loadout that we're getting. And then it's going to populate that field. So when I click play, whichever loadout I click on will then be populated, and by default the first one is what's selected. So that, as far as that menu goes, that works, and it's just a little simple setup. If I come in here and disable this and re-enable the start panel, which is like the beginning, which is kind of like the regular menu, click loadouts, this comes up, and now I can start clicking loadouts. So now what I want to do is, in the loadout panel, I just want to add another panel, which this is going to be the current loadout. And what this is basically going to be is just it's going to be one page all in all. There's no need to have like one loadout page per thing. We can just populate it every time it's open. It can just be populated with the current loadout, even if it's not it doesn't actually have to run through the code. To be honest, we can constantly change this or anything like that depending on which loadout we have. So in here, I'm going to disable my start panel again and bring up this loadout panel, but we're going to disable the loadout selector. Change this background back to black. This is whenever you see me change colors, my thing appears. My all of my pop-up windows appear off screen. I'll try to remember to drag them over. But in here, basically in the loadout, all I'm gonna do is have a few images and kind of like these buttons. Really, they're just gonna be the same buttons that I had up here, just to reduce complication. I'll go back and change them eventually. But I'm gonna bring in an image, and I want to move this. I'm gonna make this 300 just like the other one was, but I think I'm gonna change the height to about 150. Now we'll keep it at 100, and then I'll move it to, how did I have the other one set up? Negative 250. And the top one was at 180. And then I'll replace the picture with my sprite and bring the top down to maybe like 150 now, since there's only 3. And then we'll just duplicate that twice, and then move this down to maybe 100, but not 100, to 0, and then move this one down to negative 150. Right, so these will be our primary, secondary, in our melee. So I'm not gonna put primary, secondary, melee on the buttons, but what I'm gonna do is, let me add a button component here. Change the highlighted color to light black, how we had the other one. Honestly, I should have, wait. I forgot I did this mistake last time. I ended up duplicating them all before actually putting the functionality on there. Let's not do that again. Let's make sure that's tinted enough for us. Yeah, that's cool tint. And then in here, we're going to add a on click, which is just gonna get the canvas, and we're going to go into our loadout manager, and this is going to be our slot select. As you remember, our slot select is there to make sure that we're selecting, or this is select loadout, sorry. Our slot select is there to make sure that we're picking the correct slot, whether it's primary, secondary, or melee. So let me go back to my slot selector. As you see here, the parameter we want to pass is either primary, secondary, or melee. Right, so we want to come in here, and in our image we just want to say primary. Right, so now that'll load our primary gun, and then we'll just duplicate this twice, change this one to secondary, and then in here I'm going to change this one to melee. So now that that's done, this is simply just for testing, so we're not going to get too crazy with it. And change this to negative 150. And for our text on these buttons, what I want to do is, let me add a text field onto here. Actually, let's duplicate another image really quickly. Actually, let's duplicate this and move this over to the middle. Or let's move it regular 250, and then bring it up to the middle. And then this one's not gonna have a button on it. This one's just gonna have a text component. Yeah, hold on. Let's just add a little text component to it. And this one's gonna be blank for now, but we're gonna make sure that it's centered. Yeah, make sure that that's centered. I'm gonna save that and save this as current slot. This one's right here is just gonna tell us which one we're clicking on. So this one's gonna be our primary. It's gonna be our secondary. This one's gonna be our melee. Oh, I cannot spell. Melee. I've been having spelling errors all week. Okay, so now we're going to add a, should have done this before. We're going to add a text element on top of this, and we're going to center that as well. Center that, please. Okay, we're just going to delete the text out of there, and now we're done with that. To be honest, I should just did. Well, we're gonna do it again. Make sure all of the functionality's done first before starting to duplicate. So this is the primary, has the text in it, yada this, that, and the third. Let's duplicate that twice. Bring current slot back to the bottom. That down to 0. Bring this to negative 150. Excuse me while I backtrack. I feel like a lot of people would have preferred to just go in there and just add them separate individually rather than backtracking like I do, but I'm me. Y'all are you. Change this to melee. So now, what we're gonna do is, in our menu handler, for the loadouts itself, we're going to get, let's just grab the text real quick. We're gonna say public text primary gun, public text secondary gun, and these are actually supposed to be text mesh pro. Supposed to be text mesh pro UIs. I'm using a different one for the loadout tester because I just put in a text. I didn't click text mesh pro. So text mesh pro for that, and public text mesh pro melee. Just clean this up. So those are the texts that are on top of the guns, on top of the ones that you click on, and then we're gonna have a public text mesh pro. I don't remember if the other one was text mesh pro. I'm pretty sure it was. Let's go text mesh pro, and we're gonna say current slot. And basically in the update, what we're gonna do is say primary dot text equals loadout manager dot current loadout, selected loadout dot primary dot toString, and that'll get the name of the whichever primary gun we have, and then pass it as a string. So we'll do that two more times, and then just change that to secondary, change this to melee, come in here, change this to secondary, and change this to melee. And then in our current slot, we'll go current slot dot text equals loadout manager dot selected loadout dot selected slot, which is a string, so we don't need to change anything. So if we come back into Unity, and then go to our menu, I'm gonna lock the inspector right here with this little lock icon. Then we'll bring in the, come on, this isn't TM Pro. What are you doing? Why? Oh, duh. I hate that differentiation. You gotta type in text mesh pro UGUI. I never understood that, but hey. Okay, so now that we're back, go back to our canvas. Oh, my inspector's still locked. Go back to our canvas, lock it up, bring in TM Pro. I'm just gonna set all of these. Then we're gonna bring in current slot as well. We're gonna save that. So now, if I click play, these should be populated with the gun names based off of the first loadout. Boom. Gun 1, 2, 3, 4. Pistol 2. Now this hasn't been populated. I don't understand you. Did I put something in wrong? We'll check. Let's open up our console to make sure we're not getting any errors. Nope, not getting any errors. So something's not being populated, my guys. Current slot GM Pro text equals. What did I set the text equals? Select this slot. Oh. Wait, no. We did set it right. Hold on. Primary, second. Oh, duh. It's for the selected slot. I didn't click one. Primary, secondary, melee. Boom. Boom. It works. It works. It works. Primary, secondary, melee. Yeah. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. So that works fine. Right? So now what we're going to do, instead of filling it up with the primary, secondary, and all of that jazz, we're going to say current slot dot text. Rather than setting it to that, we're going to set it to loadout manager dot selected gun, which that should be pre-populated after we select the slot. So slot select slot, it'll go to the loadout. Select the slot. I want to get the attachments for it. Let's do this. Selected loadout. That primary attachments. And then we'll pass in. We do two string. I just want to filter out the entire thing, but instead of doing that, let's do them one by one. Let's say let's go 0. We'll pass in the first one, and then we'll say we'll add a space in there. We'll pass in the second one. Just do this. Just grab this again. Boom, boom. Let me just hit enter right here. Bring all of these into a better point. Go 1, go 2. And then instead of adding this, we'll just delete that. Boom. So now whenever we click on, let's see, current slot dot text equals, that's going to populate the, yeah, that's just going to populate it with nothing but the primaries, but that's okay. We just want to make sure that we're getting the attachments and we're getting the string for those. So if I select any one of them really, oh, it didn't populate. We're out of the bounds. We're out of the bounds. Did I put something wrong? Oh, we don't have anything saved right now. Duh. We don't have anything saved. Let me go to loadout 1 really quickly. Let's set this to 3. Let's set it to 4. Then we'll say ACOG. Then we'll say the underbarrels are next, foregrip. What's after that? The magazine extended. And then for the last one was the regular barrel, we'll go suppressor. Okay, so it updated. We just didn't get the suppressor in there. But of course the weapon handler is having issues right now. Which one is it having issues with? Yeah, because I don't have anything. Why is the weapon handler even in the scene right now? Oh yeah, that's right. I do need that for later. But we'll disable it for now. I don't need it right now. And then go back to loadout 1 really quickly. I didn't get the last one. Let that load. Now if we click play, gets all of our attachments. Boom. But that's just for the first one. Now if we were to come into the secondary attachments and do another 4, we could go none. Well, let's not. Let's put a sight on it. Let's put a holo on it. Let's go holo. As far as the grip goes, we just go none. Get the drum, and we'll put a flash hider in there. Right. Okay. Cool. So now, if we were to come back in here and change this to secondary attachments, please, and come back. If we click play, all of these values should now pop up. Boom, it worked. Hollow, none, drum, flash hider. So now we're passing all of those. And if you look over here in my loadout, right, you can see that when I select a gun, it changes the selected slot as we want it. Now, what we want to do is pass all of those through. Let's go to, let's see if you know what? I'm going to duplicate the, going to duplicate loadout 1, right? Let's just duplicate it. Change the name to loadout 2. Wait, let me delete loadout 2 first, just so that this is just for the fact that I don't want to have to re-enter all of those values. So we'll go loadout 2, and then inside of our loadout manager, put loadout 2 in there. So now they're the same. So now if I go back a step to our loadout screen, and I go to our loadout selector, or let's go all the way back actually. Let's go to our loadout selector, disable that too. Well, we can actually have that enabled from the beginning. If we go into our canvas, let's re-enable the start panel. And in my start panel, I don't have any code for it. It's just simply when you press something, it the on-click function just disables the other panel, the current panel, and enables the right one. So we'll press play, and if we click loadouts, see selected loadout, we'll click 2. Well, I didn't disable it, or I didn't put the disable in there. And one thing I forgot to put in was a back button, so let me do that in the go to my loadout panel. Almost, I got too happy with progression, and I forgot to add the button in there. So we're gonna add another button really quickly. Let's just duplicate loadout 10, set this to back button, and then this one is going to disable the loadout panel, and then it's going to re-enable the start panel. And then we're gonna put another, well, let me put this in the middle. And then move it up maybe like 250. Let's move it up 100, and then scale it down. Alright, now we have our back button, and then in the inside of the current loadout, I'm going to disable that. Inside of the current loadout, what we're going to do is we're going to put a back button in here. Well, let's do that for current slot, right? We don't really need this anymore. You know what? Yeah, let's keep it for... Nah, we don't need it anymore. We'll just set this as the back button. Then what this will do, this will disable this, which is the current loadout that we're on. Then we'll re-enable the loadout selector. And that should be fine. Yeah, we no longer need this section right here because we know the attachment's passing, so we no longer need the current slot for those, right? And then let's just set the text to the back button. And then that should go back. Now for the loadout selector, whenever we press any of these, we need to add another step of functionality that disables the loadout selector, but it enables the current loadout. Okay, so now that should be good. We bring up the start panel, we click play. We should be able to maneuver through loadouts. So we click loadouts. Oh wait, that went too far. Okay, there it is. It's because my mouse double clicked and clicked another one. So we go loadouts. Well, let me make sure it didn't bug out. Yeah, it went straight to the wrong one. Okay, back. I think my current loadout is enabled. It's the wrong one enabled. That's why. So we go loadouts, and we can pick loadout 1. If we go and look here, you see it changing. We go back, click loadout 2. None of those are changing, but loadout 2 is changing. I forgot I have the same guns listed, so you can't really see the... Let me go gun 1, 5, and melee 4 for that one. I want to make sure all of them are different. So now we come back, click play, click loadouts, click loadout 1. That's cool. 4, 2, 3. Go here. 1, 5, 4. So that works. You can pick loadouts and things like that, but all of these are pretty much the same. All of the rest of them are the same, so there's no reason to change anything. But yeah, that pretty much works. That's the loadout functionality on the save loadout, so that everything is pretty much cool. So the only major change I made was just moving the camo and the guns and the attachments that you were using to a different different location, so that way they don't intersect with each other when you try to change it. A little bit further down the line, whenever I set it up, I'll do the whole UI for changing it. But right now it's not done yet, but it's getting there. We can change loadouts, we can see the attachments, we make sure that everything's passing. Now all we got to do is make sure that we can change certain things when we have images for those. So till then, I'll see you in the next one. I'll do some more setting up. I'll be doing some more work. Hopefully by the end of the day I'll have the whole loadout system pretty much done as far as testing goes. So as I said, see you in the next one.